Another week, another batch of video game news for you. Welcome to Update X, where I give all of you a weekly recap of what's been going on in the gaming industry. I'm your host, Brandon Reshitar, at TheOnlyResh on Twitter and basically everywhere else. Today is Update 4.2 for April 13th, which includes Cyberpunk 2077's DLC and release, the reveal of the PlayStation 5 controller, Troy Baker wanting players to keep an open mind when playing The Last of Us Part 2, and so much more. Let's get into it. We're going to start off with the big one. PlayStation 5 reveals the new PS5 controller called DualSense. This is from Hideaki Nishino at the PlayStation blog. And the photos with this article were posted out of nowhere on Tuesday, April 7th. They just popped up on Twitter, popped up social media sites, stuff like that. Nishino says in the article that the controller will, quote, captivate more of your senses in PlayStation 5 games. The features of DualSense, along with PS5's Tempest 3D audio tech, will deliver a new feeling of immersion to players. It talks about the success of the DualShock 4 and how to build upon that success. If you've seen the pictures, you know the design looks fairly different compared to all the DualShock controllers that we've previously had. It looks more like an Xbox controller a little bit now, aside from keeping their traditional symmetry with the analog sticks and the face buttons, because PlayStation's never going to change that. But the frame as a whole, if you're an audio listener, I'm got both my controllers here that I'm showing on YouTube. The PlayStation controller has usually been more just straight handles on both sides, and the Xbox controller being more rounded and kind of just fitting the whole of your hand better, in my opinion. And yeah, so it's a little bit more similar to that now. It's a bit bulkier, but they also talked in the article about trying to make it feel smaller than it looks. But yeah, as a whole, this is the most they've ever changed the design of the PlayStation controller ever since the DualShock 1 put in analog sticks, essentially. Nishino states, we decided to keep much of what gamers love about the DualShock 4 intact, while also adding new functionality and refining the design. He talks a lot about their new focus on the sense of touch while playing games on the PS5, with features like haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. For example, the haptic feedback will add, quote, a variety of powerful sensations you'll feel when you play, such as the slow grittiness of driving a car through mud. And the adaptive triggers will let you, quote, truly feel the tension of your actions, like when drawing a bow to shoot an arrow. So that sounds really interesting to me, actually, because to a lot of people, vibration is just vibration in a controller. It's the same feeling. But if you think about them talking about slow grittiness of driving a car through mud, it'll be a different kind of vibration through the controller, and it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to understand unless you're feeling it. And then feeling the tension of your actions, like when drawing a bow to shoot an arrow. So when you're pulling the trigger back on a PlayStation controller, I'm assuming that'll mean the tension in the trigger will gradually get more difficult as you're pulling back. So it'll give that kind of similar sensation. And a lot of these things they're talking about in the article is, again, we're going to have to see when we get our hands on the controller and see how it actually feels. And the article goes into technical talk about how they were trying to make sure the new additions would fit into the hardware without giving it a bulky feeling. They wanted to make the controller feel smaller than it really looks, as I said. They changed the angle of the hand triggers and made some subtle updates to the grip. So there was a lot of thoughtful consideration into ways to maintain a strong battery life for the rechargeable battery and lessen the weight of the controller as much as possible with the new features. Because historically, the batteries on the DualShock 3 and DualShock 4 haven't been the greatest. The batteries haven't lasted as long as they could have, I feel like. And it looks like they're going to improve that on the PlayStation 5 DualSense. They're going to hopefully have the batteries last a bit longer than they have previously. And there's no longer a share button, which is now going to be a create button, which gives players, quote, new ways to create epic gameplay content to share with the world or just to enjoy for themselves. And they also said we'll have more details on this feature as we get closer to launch. So in future events, when they talk more about it eventually. But it's kind of interesting. They're a little bit vague with the new create button, but with the share button, there's game clips and stuff like that. But there's talks between other games journalists about whether the create button is going to bring you to like a whole studio hub in the PlayStation 5 where you can do more into editing the videos and stuff like that. But again, we'll have to wait and see once we get our hands on it. The DualSense also adds a built-in microphone array, which will enable players to easily chat with friends without a headset. Not a terrible addition. I think that's more of PlayStation doing their traditional thing of trying to implement new technology into the hardware, trying out new things like when they put in the touch bar or the touchpad on the PS4 and the light bar. PlayStation's always liked to try and dip their toes in different areas of more immersion in video games. I've always appreciated that. Another point that came up with the microphone array that's going to be built into the PlayStation 5 is the patent that Sony filed late last year called PlayStation Assist. You could basically tell your PlayStation you're stuck and you get some advice from the system on what to do next, or you could get directed to some kind of paid content for the game that would help you get past the difficult part. And this microphone array built into the controller could also be a way to implement that, but Sony hasn't stated whether or not that will for sure be a feature in the PS5. That's just coming from knowledge of the patent that they filed last year, so we'll see if that actually gets implemented or not. And traditionally, the PlayStation controllers have been one single color. Other than the PlayStation 1, they've all been black, as well as the console. But the DualSense, if you haven't seen the pictures, I'll have them up for the people watching on YouTube. And if you're a podcast listener, you can just look up the PS5 controller. They went a different direction. They have a two-tone design where it's black and white. And they changed the position of the light bar. Before it went across the top of the controller here. Again, I have my controller for the people watching on YouTube. So the light bar went across the top of the controller on the back, and then on the later controllers for the DualShock 4 on top of the touchpad itself. And on the PS5 DualSense, now sits at the side of each touchpad. And another quote from the article says, "We want gamers to feel like the controller is an extension of themselves while they're playing, so much so that they forget that it's even in their hands." I really don't think any controller can effectively take away the feeling of it being in your hands. You always know the controller's in your hands. That's how you're playing the game. But I'm also just a very literal person, so that's just me. And there's also a statement from Jim Ryan, who is the president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Quote, "DualSense marks a radical departure from our previous controller offerings and captures just how strongly we feel about making a generational leap with PS5. The new controller, along with the many innovative features in PS5, will be transformative for games." As I said before, I've always been very appreciative of Sony pushing for new technology and new ways to enhance the gaming experience. Even if the new idea doesn't stick, you can always appreciate them like trying to put in all these crazy different things, like the audio they talked about in the GDC conference. Granted, that was very into the weeds on basing it on the exact shape of your ear, and everybody's got a different shape and all that, but you got to appreciate their push for new technology anyway. And so overall, I really like the colors. I like the new physical design of the controller. A lot of people on Twitter have been saying they hate it, but you're never going to be able to please anybody. But I can't wait to get my hands on the DualSense and see how it actually feels and how it actually plays. And following up PlayStation news with more PlayStation news, the PS5 will make the overall experience of using a console significantly better. This is by Shabhankar Parijat. I'm pronouncing that terribly, probably, at Gaming Bolt. The article starts with this. Quote, "Amidst all the mixed reception the PS5 has had since Sony did its tech reveal, the one thing about the console that has drawn nothing but overwhelming praise is its SSD. Developers are more than a little excited to work with it and create entirely new experiences with it." Speaking in an interview with the official PlayStation magazine back in December 2019, various members of Remedy Entertainment spoke highly of the PS5's SSD. Technical director Micah Vekala said it would lead to, quote, "much more detail in the game worlds than before." While communications director Thomas Puha talked about how for a game like Control, it would mean even deeper destruction system, richer, more detailed worlds, and simple quality of life improvements like instant reloading after dying. Instant reloading after dying would be very much appreciated by every gamer, because for those of you who played Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order last year, at least at launch, I think it's a little bit better now, but definitely at launch, there was a painful load time between dying and respawning at the last checkpoint or the last little save point you did. It was, I think, 40 seconds to a minute or sometimes longer for some people, which is a long time to wait when you're trying to like play a game and immerse yourself in a game. It takes that away when you have to sit there, wait, stare at a black loading screen for a minute. It's not a good time, so I'm really excited to see the next gen consoles actually improve that. Puha also stated that benefits go beyond that. He said it's not just about better graphics, but improving the overall experience of using and playing on a console as a whole. According to Puha, the PS5 is going to make it very easy for developers to work with very powerful hardware. Quote, PS5 is about making a really smooth, quick-to-load experience and a hardware base that's easy to use for us developers, which is great because it allows us to harness the hardware power quicker. So basically, what that means is the developers are going to be able to work easier with the new technology. So they're going to be able to take advantage of the perks and technology as opposed to like just fiddling with how to make it work and working with the new stuff and not knowing how to do it. This is PlayStation just put more of a focus on making it easy to understand for developers so they can take full advantage of the next gen stuff, which is going to be another really good thing because we're going to see many more improvements on games as the years go by. And I think in this next gen, improvements and technology is going to go a lot quicker in shorter periods of time. So that'll be good to see. Next story after that, we have the ESA sets dates for a reimagined E3 2021. This is from Rebecca Valentine at gamesindustry.biz. The ESA has announced the dates for its next E3 conference, June 15th through the 17th, 2021. After cancellation last month due to COVID-19, the ESA said it was, quote, exploring options with our members to coordinate an online experience to showcase industry announcements and news in June 2020. As an update to that statement, the ESA has stated that they're not hosting an online event this year. This is from an article by Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle. The new statement says, quote, given the disruption brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, we will not be presenting an online E3 2020 event in June. Instead, we will be working with exhibitors to promote and showcase individual company announcements, including on e3expo.com in the coming months. We look forward to bringing our industry and community together in 2021 to present a reimagined E3 that will highlight new offerings and thrill our audiences. There's a few individual digital events that have been planned since the absence of E3 2020. Like Xbox is going to hold their own event, as well as Devolver Digital and Limited Run Games. Ubisoft has said it will explore the option of a replacement online event, while Nintendo has said it is considering various ways to engage with its fans following E3's cancellation. Nintendo had planned to announce Super Mario 35th anniversary plans at E3, including Switch remasters of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, VGC was recently told. Warner Bros. Games also reportedly had big announcements scheduled for E3, including a new Batman title, an open-world Harry Potter game, and the next project from Arkham developer Rocksteady Studios. If you didn't catch Update 4.1 last week, I talked about IGN announcing their Summer of Gaming event, which will be a digital event taking place in June, covering new releases, next-gen consoles, and the like, and how that was a very welcome announcement, with the ESA not having said anything new at the time. As a related story, here's more digital event stories this week. Microsoft conferences to go digital only, possibly until July 2021. This is from Wesley LeBlanc at IGN. Xbox PR says it's going to experiment with digital formats for the remainder of 2020. That's led to questions about potential attendance at Gamescom, a future E3 event, and the likes of an Xbox Series X launch event. The news began with a tweet from Ginny Kahi, pronouncing that terribly again, which includes a portion of an email to attendees at the Microsoft MVP Summit. Quote, in the light of challenges presented by COVID-19, Microsoft has been closely monitoring the developing global situation and reassuring the overall company-wide in-person strategy. As a company, Microsoft has made the decision to transition all external and internal events to a digital-first experience through July 2021. We will continue to evaluate the situation and look forward to connecting in person when the situation allows. IGN reached out to Xbox PR for official comment and received the following from a Microsoft spokesperson. In light of challenges presented by COVID-19, we are adjusting our event calendar and strategy. For the remainder of 2020, we are embracing the opportunity to provide our partners, customers, and developers the highest quality digital-first experiences. So the digital-first experiences are definitely going on for the rest of 2020, not necessarily beyond, based on that most recent comment. That was kind of the assumption, I think, from the first comment, that it's going to go through July 2021. But again, the second comment just said for sure until the end of 2020. After that, we'll see. And a report from Eurogamer says it understands this policy applies only to Microsoft organized events, and trade show attendance would be taken on a case-by-case basis. So basically, any event that is organized by Microsoft or Xbox will be digital first, but things like E3 and other just events that Microsoft would have a presence at, case-by-case basis, they could still be there. It won't strictly be digital first based on the comment, but again, COVID-19 has made everything very vague and a lot of things into a big gray area because nobody really knows what to say. Microsoft saying digital first events is good on them, but they can't be for sure about until July 2021 because nobody knows how long this is going to go on. So we'll see how that goes in the future. Next story, we got Cyberpunk 2077's DLC will be revealed before release with, quote, no less than The Witcher 3, CD Projekt suggests. This is from Andy Robinson at Video Games Chronicle. Speaking in a Polish investor Q&A on Thursday, this is translated by VGC, CD Projekt President Adam Kaczynski confirmed that Cyberpunk 2077 will have no less DLC than The Witcher 3 had. And if you don't know, The Witcher 3 had 2 full story expansions and 16 DLC packs, so we're looking at a good amount of DLC for Cyberpunk, which I'm really excited for. Kaczynski said to expect a similar scenario to The Witcher 3, when DLC packs were announced 3 months before its planned release, which was later delayed, and expansions detailed a few weeks ahead of its release. The Witcher 3's DLC calendar saw 2 pieces of free DLC drop every week for 2 months following the game's release. The DLC packs included 5 new quests, new weapons and armor sets, cosmetics, and a new Game Plus mode. The game's 2 story-driven expansions, Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine, were announced and detailed several weeks before The Witcher 3's release. Promising an additional 30 hours of gameplay, they released on October 2015 and May 2016. Another 30 hours of gameplay on top of what's already in Cyberpunk, which I'm assuming is going to be more than 30 and just a lot in general. We're going to be spending a lot of time in the world of Cyberpunk, it looks like. I'm not sure how the DLCs are going to be priced out, but we'll see how that goes. Level designer Max Pierce told VGC last September that developer CD Projekt Red had, quote, learned a lot from Witcher 3 and how that DLC worked. We've learned from that, and that is the strategy for how we'll apply DLC to Cyberpunk as well. In a management board report released last Wednesday, Kaczynski said that despite switching to remote working 3 weeks ago, there have been no major disruptions to Cyberpunk's development schedule, and he is confident of hitting the game's September release. If you don't remember, the initial delay has Cyberpunk's release date set to September 17th, 2020. One issue they've run into is working from home and the closure of recording studios due to the coronavirus pandemic has held up the localization process, meaning some voice work might have to be added to Cyberpunk 2077 in a launch day patch. CD Projekt also stated they intend to release a, quote, proper full-blown next-gen version of Cyberpunk for Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, but it will not be a launch game. And a quick reminder on that, if you purchase the Xbox One version of the game, you will get the Xbox Series X version for free, thanks to Microsoft's Smart Delivery feature for next-gen. Because when Microsoft first announced Smart Delivery, which was, if you buy a game on Xbox One, you won't have to buy it again to play on Xbox Series X. And immediately after they announced that, Cyberpunk tweeted out a statement saying you should never have to buy a game twice. And they said you will get the next-gen version for free if you buy the Xbox One version of Cyberpunk. There's not been any confirmation if this will be the case for the PS5. You can assume that the PlayStation is going to have a similar system. There's no way the PlayStation, in light of Xbox's Smart Delivery, is going to be like, no, you're going to have to buy all your games again. So, assuming PlayStation's going to have the same kind of deal, they just haven't said it yet. And as far as not having the next-gen version at launch, it's unfortunate, but you can only do so much with so little time to take a game to that next-gen level when you've been working on it at a current-gen level for so long. And despite that, I think there would actually be a pretty bright light at the end of that tunnel if they went later rather than sooner with the next-gen version. Because if it came out like right after launch, a lot of people would have already played through it on their Xbox One or their PS4, and they'd be like, well, I just beat it, I'm not going to go through and play it again unless they really enjoyed it that much. If they waited, say, 6 months or something like that, there would be more time in between when they finished playing Cyberpunk, when they got through all the DLC and stuff like that, and when it came out on next gen version, so people would be like, oh, it's been like a few months since I played that game. I'm going to go back and see what they changed about it. Because that's typically how I go through games. If I just finished it and there's some weird update, I usually don't play it again, but if it's been a while, I'll go back to it. That, and if they had a 6-month delay or whatever it is, that would give people time to play through Halo Infinite, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima. Granted, if those are out yet, because they got delayed indefinitely, or at least Last of Us Part 2 did. Moving on from that story, we got GTA 5 voice actor telling people to stop believing fake GTA 6 leaks. This is from James O'Connor at GameSpot. We all know we'll see another Grand Theft Auto game at some point, whether that comes in the form of GTA 6 or a non-numbered title. But it's been 6 years since the release of GTA 5, and we don't really know what's next for the franchise. Ned Luke, who plays Michael in GTA 5, has been asked about a theoretical GTA 6 for years, and now he's got a message for everyone who's buying into rumors about the game. Luke wants you to stop buying into clickbait headlines and rumors about the next game in the series. In an Instagram live video alongside Sean Fontano, who voiced Franklin Clinton in the game, Luke has called out the people who make up rumors about the series, claiming that no one outside of Rockstar itself knows anything. So, I've seen plenty of these posts online of clickbait and like GTA 6 leak or GTA 6 rumor, and I tend not to listen to that stuff because I know a lot of it is rumor and speculation and not based on people, actual insiders or anybody that has real information. So I would just say, just wait until you hear something from Rockstar, because otherwise you're just going to get your hopes up or you're going to assume something completely wrong. So just wait until you hear something from Rockstar or some kind of official statement from someone. And speaking on Grand Theft Auto style games, Saints Row the Third is getting a remaster for consoles and PC. This is from Andy Robinson at Video Games Chronicle. Publisher Deep Silver has announced the remaster will release for PS4, Xbox One, and PC on May 22nd, with a claimed 4,000 reworked assets, new lighting, and more. This will include remodeled weapons and cars, new texture work for a vast proportion of the game's environments, and a new lighting engine. They did say they didn't just up the resolution for the assets and stuff. They said they completely redid the assets and like made them from the ground up for this remaster. So it is going to be not completely different from the original game, obviously, but it is going to look vastly better because they reworked everything from the ground up, which is awesome. One downside, though, consoles are only going to be able to run it at a maximum of 30 frames per second. Yes, even on the Xbox One and PS4 Pro, 30 frames per second is all you're going to get. PCs are only going to be able to reach above that number. In addition, all 3 expansion mission packs and more than 30 pieces of DLC from the 2011 original have been remastered and are included in the package. Saints Row the Third Remastered gives players control of the Saints at the height of their power, with a campaign that's fully playable in co-op, outlandish character customization, and outrageous weapons. The series' 4th entry, Saints Row 4 Re-Elected, was recently released for Nintendo Switch, following a port of the third in 2019. Deep Silver's THQ Nordic has confirmed that a new Saints Row game is in development at Creator Volition Studios. They also said it will be a, quote, full entry in the series. This was announced last year as the company provided updates on several of its key properties as part of its first quarter financial results. So, since they said they're working on another full entry in the series, this remaster, I can't imagine this remaster is what they were talking about, because they said a full entry, and there's no way they can get away with calling this the full entry. So there is some kind of Saints Row 5 or something like that in the works at Volition Studios. Not any word on when that would come out, but I think they're getting the hype up with this remaster and getting attention back on Saints Row. So I'll probably hop into that remaster and check it out and get the hype back up for whatever next Saints Row they're coming out with. Moving on from that story, we got approach The Last of Us Part 2 with an open mind, says Troy Baker, who is the voice actor behind Joel. This is from Zarmina Khan at PlayStationLifestyle.net. Troy Baker has hinted that The Last of Us Part 2's story may be divisive and has asked fans to approach the game with an open mind. Speaking to fandom, Baker said that the game is designed to make players question everything, and those who go in closed-minded will have a very different experience. Troy says, quote, "If we have done our job right, People will question everything. I want players to be able to challenge their own ideas about what this game is, what this world is, who the characters are, everything. I want people to go in open-minded to this story and allow Joel and Ellie to tell their story, not the story that people think they want to be told. Baker went on to say that while he doesn't know if players will overhate the story, they definitely will not be ambivalent about it. So, this really interests me because I don't like stories being predictable, everybody being like, oh, the story's going the direction that people want them to go, like what would satisfy them, or what they think would. So I can appreciate Troy saying nobody will expect where the story is going to go, basically. And then it's going to make you question everything. That's the kind of stories and games that I like. I like unpredictable, essentially. And there's also an interesting story about how the sequel's announcement took Baker by surprise. He was sitting in a bar with director Neil Druckmann in 2015 when the developer revealed where he wanted Joel and Ellie to go next. He later went over to Druckmann's house and began taking notes. Troy said, "By the end of it, I was silent, like I was sat at the feet of the greatest storyteller. It was an amazing story. I'm definitely going to have to go back and play the first one again. I remember the ending, and I was actually really shocked by that and excited to see where they were going to go next. So, definitely going to go play the first one, maybe twice." And I said last week on Twitter that the Inside Xbox, I was going to do a recap of that in this episode. So, first thing they said in Inside Xbox, we have an upcoming survival adventure game called Grounded. And basically, you wake up in the backyard of a house, you've been shrunk down to ant size, and a robot is talking to you, telling you what's going on. And the robot tells you the machine that can return you to normal size is out of order, and all the bugs and all that insects in the backyard are trying to eat you. You alone, or you and up to 3 friends, need to make a base, craft weapons, and even use the dew from the grass to quench your thirst. Grounded will enter Xbox Game Preview with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and Steam Early Access on July 28th, 2020. Then they talked about the evolution of Xbox Game Bar. And if you don't know what the Game Bar is, it's a tool used on PC to capture video, access audio settings, listen to Spotify, providing a frames per second counter, things like that. During Inside Xbox, the Game Bar team said, starting today, widgets for apps such as XSplit's Gamecaster and Razer's Cortex are coming to Xbox Game Bar. They also said they expect the number of widgets to continue to grow. And to get more details on any of the Inside Xbox stuff I talk about on this episode, you can go to news.xbox.com, and they have expanded information of them talking about all these things in more detail. So check that out if you want to know more than what I'm briefly going over here. And next up, they said on April 13th, Xbox Game Pass will be expanding to Japan and Korea. Game Pass for PC will launch in beta for gamers in Korea and will be included as part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Benefits, which is already available in the region, while all Game Pass services for the console and PC will come to Japan for the first time. Also, new titles now in Game Pass libraries on console include Nier Automata Become as Gods Edition, Totally Reliable Delivery Service, Alvastia Chronicles, and Journey to the Savage Planet. Game Pass for PC, Overcooked 2 is available now, and coming soon, Football Manager 2020, Alvastia Chronicles, Mistover, and Stranger Things 3 the game. Next they said Project xCloud is getting 3 more games from EA, The Sims 4, Unravel 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition, and Project xCloud Preview will be heading to 11 new countries in Western Europe: Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, and Sweden. And if you're interested in that, head to xbox.com/projectxcloud. Next, they talked about Forza Street coming to iOS and Android devices on May 5th. Anyone who plays Forza Street between May 5th and June 5th will get the Founders Pack, which includes the 2017 Ford GT, some in-game credits, and gold in your message center. Pre-register now on Google Play and the Samsung Galaxy Store, coming soon to iOS. Next, they talked about Gears Tactics going gold for PC, and it's launching on April 28th. The Xbox version is coming later this year. And if you didn't know, Gears Tactics is basically pretty much built specifically for PC gamers. It's got strategic mechanics and intricate gameplay controls for mouse and keyboard. You can get a free copy of Gears Tactics with a qualifying purchase of an Intel Core i5 processor-based device or higher. Next, they talked about a free Sea of Thieves update called Ships of Fortune, available April 22nd. Players can become emissaries for one of the Outpost trading companies by speaking to their representatives at the Outpost and inspect the nearby table. A new mysterious company called the Reaper's Bones has emerged. They can be found at the Reaper's Hideout. Overhauled matches in arena mode. Old treasure maps have been replaced by a single chest marked by a Sea Dog beacon, with just one cash-in location to ensure a furious battle for victory. Contest times have been slashed to 15 minutes, guaranteeing a frantic pace in each match. Now, when pirates are defeated, there will be a brief window during which their crewmates can revive them before their soul drifts to the Ferry of the Damned. The Pirate Emporium will now have 3 breeds of cats, which all come in a variety of color options, and of course you can dress up your cat. And finally, a new batch of ID at Xbox games is coming to Xbox One. A new game, The Last Campfire, which is a dark fantasy from developer Hello Games, that combines a beautiful art style with a wide variety of puzzles to create a wholly unique experience. A new trailer for Atomicrops, I think is how you say it, which is an action-packed farming simulator where you must cultivate and defend the last farm in a post-apocalypse wasteland. I'm not into farming games. Like, my buddies have been trying to get me to buy, like, Farm Simulator or whatever it's called. But if you're running the last farm in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, that sounds kind of interesting. I'm interested in that. Action-packed top-down shooter Hotline Miami Collection is out on Xbox One now. And that's all we got for the news, so moving on to some gaming deals. Microsoft's spring sale is over, but you can still get your first month of Xbox Game Pass for $1, or potentially 3 years of Game Pass for $1, if that workaround still works. I talked about that in the gaming deals section of my last video, or podcast. Deals for Nintendo. Until April 15th, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which is a 5-game compendium, is 30% off on Switch, 3DS, and Wii U. Until April 16th, Nintendo has a sale on a lot of WB games like Mortal Kombat 11 and a ton of LEGO games. Also until April 16th, you can get the Jackbox Party Pack 1, 4, 5, and 6. Each are 30 to 50% off individually. Until April 19th, Diablo 3 is 50% off on Switch. Nintendo also has up to 75% off a lot of Ubisoft titles until April 20th, like Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, some Assassin's Creed games, 2 South Park games, Uno, a lot more like that. Until April 20th, the roguelike deck builder Slay the Spire is 25% off. And Nintendo's got a ton more. I had to stop myself from listing them here because there was a lot. So go on the Nintendo store and see if you like anything you see there, because there's a lot of sales going on. So for PlayStation, their spring sale is still going on. A ton of good games are $20 to $40 off, like NBA 2K20, Death Stranding, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, The Witcher 3, Mortal Kombat 11, and a ton more on PlayStation 2. PlayStation also, not PlayStation 2. Yeah, go check out PlayStation Spring Sale. They have a lot of games. You'll probably find something you like there. And some of the PlayStation deals, the prices are around until April 15th, and some are around until April 29th. So there is way too many and way too much variety for me to spell that out. Moving on to the releases from the past week and next week via Metacritic. And there's way too many each week, so I just go through a few that have cool or weird names and the ones that actually have scores I can report on. Last week we had Disaster Report 4 Summer Memories, which released on April 7th for PS4 and Switch. The scores are kind of weird for this one and all over the place. The Switch version got a 59 Metascore, but a 7.6 user score. And the PS4 version got a 50 Metascore and a 4.5 out of 10 user score, so who knows how that game is. Below came out for PS4 April 7th and got a 75 Metascore. It didn't have a user score to tell. Biped for PS4 got a 76 Metascore and a 6.9 user score. Final Fantasy VII Remake for PS4 got an 87 Metascore and an 8.0 user score, which is interesting because I've seen so many 9s and 10s from other places. Like, I think IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, GameSpot gave it a 10 out of 10. So the Metacritic score is interesting to me. Next week, Fishing Sim World Pro Tour Collector's Edition is coming for Xbox One and PS4 April 14th. Journey to the Savage Planet Hot Garbage for PS4 and Xbox One April 15th. AFL Evolution 2 for PS4 April 16th. Later Daters for Switch April 16th. Save Your Nuts for Xbox One and Switch April 16th. Super Pixel Racers for Switch April 16th. Freak Out Calamity TV Show for PS4 and Switch April 17th. Theme Park Simulator for Switch April 17th. And moving on from the releases, go over what I've been playing for the last week. A little bit of Animal Crossing still, not nearly as much as I played when it first came out. I finished Doom 2016. That was fun. I don't know if I'll get to Doom Eternal this next week or not. We'll see how that goes. I started Control on Xbox because that got those Game of the Year nominations, so I had to check that out. I think it's good so far. I'm not incredibly crazy about it, but it's fun. I got the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I haven't been on my PS4 in a while, actually, but I had to dig it out for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I said in last week's episode, I haven't really played Final Fantasy before. I played an hour or two of Final Fantasy 15, and it wasn't bad. I just couldn't really get into it much. I am actually getting into Final Fantasy 7, so if you've been on the fence about trying to get into Final Fantasy, I would say Final Fantasy 7 Remake is the time to try it out and see how it goes, because that one is really good. And I've been playing a lot of Rocket League the past few days. Rocket League is one of those games where I'm out of it for a little bit, I get bored of it, and then I get really into it again 2 months later. So yeah, I'm on another Rocket League kick. But that's all for what I've been playing over the past week. This has been your update 4.2 for April 13th, 2020. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube or for listening on podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you want to get more frequent gaming news posts from me in between episodes, you can follow the show's page on Twitter at UpdateXShow. You can also give me any feedback or suggestions about the show while you're there. Outside of game news, I post gaming clips for fun on TikTok at The Only Resh. Yes, there's a gaming community on TikTok, if you want to check that out. And my personal Twitter page is also at The Only Resh, where I post non-strictly news-related stuff. As always, thank you so much for choosing Update X for your gaming news. I'll see you next Monday morning. Have a great one.